You picked up a controller last night. Maybe you didn't even think about it. Your thumbs found the buttons before your brain caught up. That reflex feels modern. It feels like something born in a garage in California, sometime in the 1970s, with wires and cathode ray tubes and a few nerds who changed the world. But the real answer is far stranger. The first video game wasn't built to make money. It wasn't built for kids. It was built by a physicist in a government laboratory, mostly to kill an afternoon. His name was William Higinbotham. In 1958, he worked at Brookhaven National Laboratory in New York, a place devoted to nuclear physics. Every year, the lab opened its doors to the public for a visitor's day. And every year, the exhibits were the same. Dull, technical, the kind of thing you nod at politely and then forget. Higinbotham wanted something different. He had access to an analog computer and an oscilloscope, a device meant to display electrical signals as lines on a small green screen. He wired it to simulate gravity and bouncing. Then he added 2 paddles and a ball. He called it Tennis for Two. Visitors lined up for hours to play it. 2 people, 1 glowing screen, a game of tennis rendered in nothing but a curved green line. Here's the strange part. Higinbotham never patented it. He didn't think it mattered. He built it, people loved it, and then he moved on to studying nuclear non-proliferation for the rest of his career. He had, by accident, built the first interactive video game on Earth, and he barely mentioned it again. So why do we usually hear a different origin story? Because history doesn't remember what came first. It remembers what spread. 14 years after Higinbotham's oscilloscope experiment, a group of students at MIT got their hands on something new. A computer that other people were actually allowed to touch. It was 1962, and the machine was called the PDP-1. Before this, computers were locked away, tended by technicians in white coats, treated like oracles instead of tools. A student named Steve Russell decided the PDP-1 needed to do something more fun than mathematics. Along with his friends, he spent about 200 hours writing a program called Spacewar. 2 ships, a star pulling on them with real gravity, torpedoes, and the whole thing ran directly on the screen, in real time, controlled by human hands. Spacewar. Spread the way ideas spread among people who trust each other. Programmers at other universities got copies of the code and added their own touches. It became, without anyone planning it, one of the first pieces of software ever shared for free between strangers. Some historians consider this the true birth of hacker culture. Long before anyone called it open source, Spacewar was already living that idea. But a university computer lab isn't a living room. For video games to become what you know today, they had to escape the lab entirely. That escape had 2 separate architects, and they never really got along. The first was Ralph Baer, a German-born engineer working for a military electronics company in the 1960s. In 1966, while waiting for a colleague, he sketched out an idea in a notebook. What if a television, the most common object in an American home, could do more than just receive broadcasts? What if you could play on it? Baer spent years refining the idea, eventually building a wooden prototype nicknamed the Brown Box. It could play a simple tennis game, a light gun shooting game, even a rough version of checkers. In 1972, that prototype became the Magnavox Odyssey, the first home video game console ever sold to the public. Baer would later be called, officially, by the U.S. National Medal of Technology, the father of video games. The second architect was a young engineer named Nolan Bushnell. He had actually played Spacewar in college and never forgot it. He believed a stripped-down arcade version could work as a coin-operated machine, something you'd find in a bar or a bowling alley. His first attempt, called Computer Space, flopped. It was too complicated for a casual player who just wanted a distraction between drinks. So Bushnell tried again, simpler this time. A ball, 2 paddles, a single score counter. He called it Pong, and in 1972, he put a single test cabinet in a bar in California. 2 days later, the bar owner called to say it was broken. A technician opened it up and found the real problem. The coin box was so overstuffed with quarters that it had jammed the machine. People weren't just playing Pong, they were lining up for it. This is usually where the story stops. Higinbotham, then Russell, then Baer, then Bushnell. A neat chain of inventors, each one handing the torch to the next. But that chain misses something bigger, something anthropologists have been arguing for almost a century. In 1938, a Dutch historian named Johann Huizinga published a book called Homo Ludens, Latin for playing man. His argument was radical for its time. He claimed that play isn't something civilization added on top of survival. He claimed play came first. Law, art, philosophy, even war, according to Huizinga, all grew out of humanity's much older instinct to create games, contests, and rules for their own sake. Think about that for a second. Before agriculture, before writing, before anything we'd call technology, humans were almost certainly playing. Dice carved from animal bone have been found in archaeological sites over 5,000 years old. Ancient Egyptians played a board game called Senet, so old that even the Egyptians themselves eventually forgot its original rules. The board survived. The instructions didn't. So the honest answer to who invented video games isn't a single name. It's a pattern that has repeated for thousands of years. Humans get a new piece of technology, and almost immediately, someone tries to turn it into a game. Fire led to fireside stories with rules and stakes. Writing led to riddles and word games. Electricity led to pinball. And the computer, a machine built by militaries and universities to calculate missile trajectories and census data, was, within 2 decades of its invention, already being hijacked by bored young men who just wanted to shoot each other's spaceships. Modern research backs up how deep this instinct runs. Stuart Brown, a psychiatrist who founded the National Institute for Play, spent decades studying what happens to animals and humans who are deprived of play early in life. Across species from rats to grizzly bears, he found that play isn't a luxury behavior. It's tied to emotional regulation, problem solving, and even physical survival. Animals raised without the chance to play often struggle to navigate normal social situations later on. That's the part that should sit with you. Every time your thumbs move on a controller without your brain giving the order, you're not doing something artificial. You're doing something extremely old, wearing new clothes. Higinbotham gave play an oscilloscope. Russell gave it a university mainframe. Baer gave it your television. Bushnell gave it a coin slot in a bar. But none of them invented the impulse itself. They just gave it the next machine to live inside. So the next time someone asks who really invented video games, you can give them the names. Higinbotham, Russell, Baer, Bushnell. All true, all real, all worth knowing. But the deeper answer is older than electricity, older than writing, maybe older than language itself. You picked up a controller last night. It wasn't a new habit, it was an old one, finally given a screen.